Hello, you are watching the Nouvel Esprit video series on the theology of the body. This video is dedicated to audience 63. We are your hosts. I am Jeremy Hossotter.
And I'm Guillermo Moreno.
So, audience 63 is the last audience of the chapter, and it ends our investigation on art. JP2 is taking us on a detour through the last few audiences, looking at the role of the human body and art. And now we get to finish that discussion. So, some introductory remarks. The question that we want to address is, can the naked body be a model and the subject of audio-visual technology? So what JP2 is referring to is, of course, things like photography and film, movies. In fact, we can throw in there today social media, which includes both of those mediums. Just like, whether it's your 30-second short video or your hour long, or just your full length feature movies. There's quite a wide variety today of what constitutes as audio-visual technology. And the key for answering this question is, of course, Matthew 5, verses 27, 28, where Jesus describes the man who looks at a woman with concupiscent desire as committing adultery with her. He makes her an adulteress through looking at her with concupiscent desire. And this this passage is the key for our understanding. So something to note first is JP2 wants to use the terms pornography and then a term he coined called pornovision. And today we normally think of everything as just pornography, whether it's a sexually explicit video, a picture, whatnot. However, what JP2 is using the term in a more classical sense in reference to literature alone. And so pornovision is meant to include these new art mediums such as photography and film. And this term, obscena, this Latin term, has the definition that JP2 provides for us here from TOB 63, quote, everything that must not find itself before the eyes of spectators, that must be surrounded by fitting discretion, that cannot be presented without any choice to human view, end quote. So this idea of obscena is in the background of what JP2 has in mind with both pornography and pornovision. Now, let's see. We have to note that over the course of human history, that the human body has been the subject and the model of culture and works of art. And this is especially true with literature, paintings, and sculptures. And the reciprocal self-giving between man and woman, the conjugal union, that communion of persons, has also been the subject of scripture. A particular example of that is the Song of Songs, which part of the theology of the body, as we'll see later on, is actually a commentary on. So that is very exciting future material that we'll be talking about. Is actually JP2's commentary on the Song of Songs. Guillermo, do you have anything you'd like to add at this moment?
I do not.
Okay. So we want to begin then by noting the duty of the artist. Guillermo, could you read this for us, please?
Yes. The artist, quote, The artist who takes up this subject in any sphere of art or by audiovisual technologies must be conscious of the full truth of the object, of the whole scale of values connected with it. He must not only take them into account abstractly, but also live them rightly himself. This requirement corresponds also to the principle of purity of heart, which must in determinate cases be carried over from the existential sphere of attitudes and forms of behavior to the intentional sphere of artistic creation or reproduction. End quote. And that is from Article 4 of this audience.
Awesome. Thank you, Guillermo.
Yes.
So there's a lot packed into this statement. So let's see if we can tease out a little bit. So the artist has to be conscious of the full truth of the object, and the object is the human body. And that full truth of the human body, if we recall, includes the entire mystery of the beginning, the mystery of creation, the mystery of man, the mystery of woman, and the communion of persons, the spousal meaning of the body. The artist who takes up the naked body as a subject has to have all of that taken into account. And this full truth has to be integrated with the scale of values. It has to be considered within the hierarchy of goods, of values. So we have an ethical duty here that has to correspond to the reality of the human body integrated within the hierarchy of value. And in particular, we want to be thinking about, of course, the value of the human person. We cannot separate the sexual value of the body from the value of the human person. And this has to be taken into account in two different ways. So we see here you have this, the, oh, excuse me. So the artist has to take this into account abstractly. That means he has to be cognizant of it intellectually, but he also has to live this out. So the man or the woman, whoever is the artist, they have to live this truth. They have to live in accordance with this hierarchy of values. And that's where this phrase, this existential sphere of attitudes, man within his existence, his daily life, has to take into account the reality, the truth, and the goodness and the value of the human body if he is going to be authentic in his artistic endeavor. So these are all things we have to keep in mind. We could also, of course, point out that all of this has to correspond, of course, to the purity of heart, which is the moral demand from Matthew 5. All right. So the process of creating art. So when we create art, we intend first a objectification of the model outside of this interpersonal sphere of the communion of persons. That is to say, when we are using the naked human body as a subject of art, we're treating the naked human body outside of the communion of persons as an object. So there's a kind of objectification in motion here. And this objectification is expressed as the artist, his or hers, their creative idea. And this expression is a manifestation of the artist's inner world of values, his way of living the truth. So the existential ordering of the artist and how he or she responds to the hierarchy of values, the truth and reality of the naked body is expressed through the artwork. And this can be either good or bad, of course. And this artistic process is a transfiguration of the model because you are changing. There's this change being occurring because you have this transfiguration of the subject, the naked body, by the artist's idea, by his creativity. And this transfiguration is distinct from the reproduction of the human body as a model in photography and film. And this process of transfiguration constitutes as the essential difference between painting and sculpture versus photography and film. And we can also note that the viewer will communicate with a work of art in two ways. First, with with the objectification of the artist, the work of art itself, and then with what the artist expressed through the objectification, namely the truth that the artist is expressing, or and this world of values, or perhaps is the artist's failure of expressing the reality and truth and goodness of the naked body. Are you still there, Guillermo?
I am still here.
All
And
right.
yeah, just something that came to mind was the fact that it's the artist's objective that is in conformity with the truth of our dignity as human persons. In other words, okay, what's the artist's intention in depicting the human body? That's what determines whether something is art or obscenity or something else altogether. But that's what the main word that stood out to me, just thinking about this, was the artist's objective.
All right. Thank you, Guillermo.
Yes.
All right. So, works of art. There are many great works of art that have the naked body as their subject, and these works of art allow the viewer to concentrate on the whole truth of man, such as man's dignity, beauty, value, the mystery of masculinity, the mystery of femininity, superessential beauty. And these works bear within themselves an element of sublimation that leads the viewer through the body to the integral mystery of man. And so, in these works, the viewer is not pushed to look at them with concupiscent desire. And since these works of art are not pushing the viewer to look at the human body in this manner with concupiscent desire, they are in fact in conformity with the purity of heart in New Testament ethos. So here, JP2 is defending a legitimate role of the naked body in art. So that is an important point to keep in mind, that you can present the naked body in art, but it has to be done in the right manner. And that's a fine distinction we are losing sense of, because I think in general people recognize, yes, you can make a painting of a naked human body, but then given our society, we just err by turning it into a work of concupiscence instead of a work of beauty. So what makes a work of I can't say work of art. I guess just an art piece or something. What makes some works objectionable is not because of nakedness itself, but because of the variables involved in the reproduction, depiction, and representation of the body. Through these variables, the same fundamental intentionality of the work becomes accessible to the viewer or the reader or the listener, depending on what it is, whether it's a book, movie, photograph, a painting. And so if one's personal sensibility reacts to a work of art, or I can't say work of art, but some sort of work, then this is due to this fundamental intentionality of the artist that has interpreted the body as an object to be enjoyed with concupiscent desire. So it's a work made for you to enjoy, to appease, to excite, to arouse your concupiscent desire. And this intentionality is fundamentally opposed to the dignity of the human person within the realm of aesthetics. And so when you have a work that contains such a intentionality, it's not a true work of art. It is not art, but we could say anti-art. It's opposed to what is true art. And of course, we can cite many examples today. And I guess before we turn to Humanae Vitae, we do want to note that, I guess just to say that JP2 is really drawing his a lot of inspiration from Humanae Vitae, and in particular, this is a quote that he cites in the audience. Guillermo, would you like to lead us through Article 22 here of Humanae Vitae?
Yes. Quote, we take this opportunity to address those who are engaged in education and all those whose right and duty it is to provide for the common good of human society. We would call their attention to the need to create an atmosphere favorable to the growth of chastity so that true liberty may prevail over license and the norms of the moral law may be fully safeguarded. Everything, therefore, in the modern means of social communication, which arouses men's baser passions and encourages low moral standards, as well as every obscenity in the written word and every form of indecency on the stage and screen, should be condemned publicly and unanimously by all those who have at heart the advance of civilization and the safeguarding of the outstanding values of the human spirit. It is quite absurd to defend this kind of depravity in the name of art or culture, or by pleading the liberty which may be allowed in this field by the public authorities. End quote.
Yeah, thank you, Guillermo.
Yes.
So JP2 gives us his teaching as part of this article as part of his kind of magisterial weight for his argument. Humanae Vitae, of course, is an encyclical written by Saint Pope Paul VI on the topic of contraception, and just reaffirming the traditional teaching of the church. And here we read, of course, that we have the duty to defend chastity. And when we have these works of anti art being promoted within society, they really are an assault upon civilization and the common good, in addition to a violation of the dignity of the human person. They are antithetical to what is truly culture and what is a cultural work of art. And so we have a moral duty and a aesthetic duty to reject such works. We have to object to porno vision. We have to object to pornography. We should not be praising it. We should not be, uh, as a critic of art, we should not be endorsing it, saying that this is what good art is, when no, it truly is not. Guillermo, do you have anything you want to add on about Humanae Vitae 22?
Not about Humanae Vitae 22, but
Okay.
building off of what you were saying about, yeah, that we shouldn't spread pornography. We shouldn't promote it in any way, shape, or form. What came to mind was also, um, so rather than pornography, I doesn't make sense to say porno audio, but I guess there's obscenity in language that we should call out as well, either because it is sexually obscene in nature, or it's sinful in some other way. I think that's grounds for being like rightly critical of certain types of music, for example.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
certainly.
Yeah, whether the lyrics are sexually obscene or not.
You
But there's this,
can, yeah, you can go a little further and just like some music, just like the tempo, the beat and whatnot, is created in a way to try and just arouse you and keep you aroused through the duration of the song. I mean, you think about, just you go to a high school dance where this music
sure.
is playing,
Mhm.
and the students, they will naturally gravitate towards grinding, just have it, acting out pseudo sexual encounters. And part of it is, of course, just hormones, teenagers, but part of it too is the music just kind of influencing them. And as you dance to the motion, that's just kind of naturally what it leads you into.
I obviously don't disagree. I think where I'm coming from, I think it's just more so as a warning to parents. Let's
Agreed.
just be careful with what we expose our children to, uh, of all ages, because things like TikTok or just trendy things that aren't um pornographic per se, but they're still impure, whether or not because of a sexual obscenity in some other way. But we should call out those instances of impurity as well.
Definitely. Definitely. We have to be we have to be extra vigilant in this day and age.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you for that, Guillermo.
Yeah, thank you.
So, For, of course, this leads us to a discussion of duties towards a culture of chastity. So, culture has the task of ennobling everything that is properly human, and this includes art. And so, with regards to art, there are two aspects that we need to consider for moral evaluation. First, the ethos of the image and the duty of the artist in creating a work of art, which we have elaborated on. And then, of course, secondly, the ethos of the viewer and the duty in looking at a art piece. Because you can have the artist make a genuine work of art where you have the naked body as the subject. But if the viewer himself is not prepared, he might still enter into a relation of concupiscent desire with that work of art. And that would be a failing on the viewer and not the artist. Or similarly, a viewer, perhaps maybe they don't like works of art and they just go and they seek out pornography or something instead. But either way, you have a duty both on the artist for creating works of art and not obscenity, and you have the duty of the viewer, the aesthetic. I don't want to use the word consumer, but in some ways it does fit the person who is receiving, who's reading, who is watching, looking. The person who interacts with the art piece has a duty of interacting with it in the right manner. And so the truth of man, the body, and human dignity is a task for both the viewer and the creator. The creator has the task of conforming his artistic intentionality to the truth of man. And this authentic artistic activity must overcome the anonymous objectification of the body. And the task of the aesthetic viewer then is to draw towards the truth and avoid becoming a superficial consumer. And one thing we need to note about this language of anonymous objectification of the body is that it occurs predominantly with photography and film because they do not have this process of transfiguration of the human subject. So that is something to be extra wary about is that film and photography will more likely violate this truth of man because the human body is taken as an object for reproduction where the human person as an individual is separated and the body is taken as an anonymous object that is distributed out for all people to consume. And that itself is a major problem and one of JP2's objections to this porno vision. Do you have anything else you'd like to add, Guillermo?
I do not.
Okay. I don't remember what the next slide is, but we do have coming up some pictures of works of art. So I just wanted to give a warning to our listeners that if you are in some place like I guess it's somewhere where you don't want to see pictures of works of art that includes the naked human body, this is your warning of the future. So let's go ahead and move on to the next slide now. Aha, I was I was right in giving my warning. So our first work of art is Giorgiorni's Sleeping Venus. And this is a famous work because one, you get the beauty of the woman, of course, the where you have this the mystery of femininity just kind of radiating out. And this piece has been kind of I guess a major influence on model. There were many artists after Giorgione who take this idea of a reclining Venus as their influence. And so here we go. Sleeping Venus. Our next one is Bocelli's The Birth of Venus. Again, we see this kind of this theme of mythology. Um I think one thing that just really captivates me with this painting is just the face of Venus here rising up in the middle of the ocean. Just the beauty of the model that Bocelli uses, woman. And of course, we got Fire Collett's spring coming to clothe her. Forget who the other goddess is. All right. Guillermo, do you have any comments?
I don't.
Okay, we'll just keep cycling through then. Let's see here. The next one is, of course, Michelangelo's David. So it's about King David from the Bible. We have this magnificent statue from a couple different angles here. And then here is a statue by Bernini of Apollo and Daphne. So Daphne, according to Greek mythology, in particular to Ovid's Metamorphose, um, Ovid was a Latin poet, and the Metamorphose is pretty much an anthology of Roman Greek mythology. And the story of Apollo and Daphne, Daphne was a follower of Artemis. She loved hunting. She took a vow of perpetual virginity. And of course, one day Apollo sees her and just had to have her. And so he chases her around and she's running. She gets tired. She makes it to the river. Her father is the river god, and she asked to be saved from Apollo. And so her prayer was heard, and she turns into a laurel tree. And so we can see the fine details where her fingers start turning into tree branches. It's really magnificent how Bernini is able to capture the intricateness with the hands, and of course, the hair. He's really a master sculptor. And then we also have Bernini's The Rape of Proserpina. I apologize if I butchered that. So here we have Pluto or Hades. He's the god of the underworld, and he goes up and kidnaps Proserpina to be his wife. And there is a lot of amazing detail here, like Pluto's beard, their faces. And I think one thing that really impressed me is just the Pluto's hand grabbing Proserpina's thigh there. Just the level of detail makes it look lifelike, even though it is just marble. It just impresses me here. Um, Again, this story also you can find in Ovid's Metamorphose. Also, interestingly, JP2 quotes from Ovid's Metamorphose at some point in the theology of the body. So I guess it's fitting to talk about Ovid in this video. One thing to note is that all of our pictures of the works of art we found from Wikimedia Commons. Guillermo, do you have anything you'd like to add before we end our video?
I'm just very captivated by the detail in the statues, honestly. That's all.
Oh yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bernini and Michelangelo are both just amazing. Um, some other famous statues, of course, Michelangelo's Pietà and
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Bernini's The Ecstasy of Saint Teresa of Avila. Those two are also just amazing. Um, I guess we'll just have to end our video. So thank you everyone for watching, listening. If you have been enjoying our content, please like, subscribe, share, and comment on our social media like Facebook, YouTube, and also consider making a financial donation. Your financial support goes towards the maintenance of our website and the purchasing of materials so we can continue creating great content such as these videos and our many articles on our website. You can support us through Patreon, PayPal, or if you use the Brave web browser, you can directly tip us cryptocurrency through YouTube and our website. There's a little triangle to the right of the URL bar where you can do that. So you can just be on our page or our YouTube. You don't even have to leave and go somewhere else. It's right there, quite convenient. Speaking of our articles on our website, you can check them out, all of them for free at nouvelesprit.com. We have them covering a variety of topics, especially Vatican II. And on our website, you can also find our podcast. And Guillermo, can you give us some more information about our podcast, please?
Yes, our podcast series, our other podcast series, in that series, we talk about a variety of topics, such as trends in culture and politics, and we address those topics from a Catholic personalist perspective. You can listen to our podcast episodes on lenovelesprit.com in the podcast page under media, or you can also listen to us on buzzsprout.com, where you can find links to our podcast episodes on other popular podcasting platforms such as Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify.
All right. If you are confused just where at to find all of our social media, you can simply go to lenovelesprit.com/subscribe, and there you can find links for PayPal, Patreon, Facebook, YouTube, Buzzsprout, and about 20 other things that we are on, including all the various platforms our podcast is distributed. Um, is there anything else, Guillermo?
Yes, I would just like to ask our viewers and listeners to keep us and our mission in your prayers.
Yes, please pray for us. We are in gratitude for your prayers. And with that, we will see you next time.
Bye, everyone. God bless.